62 classes on prose wise, but meditation and extra classes on this Dhyanam, subject of Dhyanam. Another 3-4 classes may be left on this. I think that's all. Because many of these practices are meant for many who have to spend a lot of time for this Dhyanam. So we will go through it, but one can practice. If one is interested, one can practice on that. Basically, first of all, why do we learn this Dhyanam? Is it necessary? I must have spoken a number of times on this, but still, what's the importance of Dhyanam? Is it necessary? We are all entangled with our prarabdha karma in every life, for that matter. Every human being is entangled in the prarabdha. So the sancheda karma is very much influenced by the prarabdha karma. That itself needs a discrimination. How this prarabdha karma can be modified through sancheta, and how the sancheta karma has to be processed and proceeded has to be known. Today it is a mixture of prarabdha, sancheta and agami karmas. We even do not know whether it is agami karma or it is prarabdha karma. A distinction could not be drawn by any normal person, normal human being, because of his ignorance. One is because of the ignorance, another is because of the entanglement, attachment, or involvement. In these karmas. What is the involvement? We have explained involvement some time back. Again, just to remind you again, before we proceed further on the Dhyanam, because Dhyanam is not a very interesting subject for general common people. There are a lot of techniques involved in it. So it's not enjoyed by many listeners. Just a listener will not enjoy it. It's not an interesting subject. It's not like stories and events like that. So before we go further, we must at least remind us that what is the importance of this and why one should need it. So what happens is that, what is that involvement and entanglement is that we are born, no doubt, we have sancheta karmas. This identification of sancheta karma when in the smaller ages or younger ages it is difficult. But what happens when we start, I know today's educational practices are totally different. Earlier days things were different, where much more great scholars were created by the ancient times. All the knowledge today prevalent is only because of those ancient men, ancient noble men. They are the ones who have created all those things. All the creations today, whatever reinventions or rediscoveries and discoveries are being made based on those inventions created by those great men. And those great men have undergone an educational practice totally different than today. The material development is not necessary. I don't deny that today. Today's progress or progression, what we call, is based on material developments. And in material developments, there are lots of convenience, lots of facilities for the physical body today, and fulfillment of the egoistic satisfactions. Whereas earlier days, ancient times, the great men worked on the absoluteness of everything. Today we are dependent on the material which is manifested, bhautikam, bhutas, from the bhutas. They are manifested. When the bhutas are not there, when the proportion of bhutas are not according to the necessities, then even the creation creates a problem. That's how lots of calamities takes place. That's why we call it as calamities. Lots of calamities takes place. Calamities is what? What is calamity? It's an imbalance of the natural way of functioning. It's called a calamity. Yes. This natural functioning, why should it have a disturbance or a disorientation, which is called as calamity? It's because of violation of maintaining of the nature. Because of the violation of maintaining of the prakriti or siddhanta or the principles, then only a calamity can come. In your body, a calamity comes only because of indiscipline in your system of functioning, maintaining it. Some way or other, through food, through not sleeping, not maintaining the proper proposition of the discipline, is why such calamities takes place in the physical body. The same way, the imbalances and the calamities, including human nature. Today, lots of arrogance, lot of fights, lot of enmity, lot of disbalance even in the faith, dependency, respect, regards. All these things are happening. Why? Why? Because there is a calamity. These are all calamities actually. These are all imbalances in the maintaining the Prakriti Niyama. If we maintain the Prakriti Niyama, will it have any adverse repercussions on a physical body or in the functioning of the society and system of the universe or the world or the countries or the individuals? No. But that discipline of maintaining of the discipline or the balancing of this, the nature, balancing of the Prakriti Niyama according to the Purusha, the Dhyanam, Abhyudayam, which has been created from the Andardhanam, from the Purusha to the Prakriti in order to be there as it is, the Prakriti has to maintain certain discipline or the balancing of the Dhyanam in it. Is there any deviation in the Prakriti Niyama? There are no deviations. The Ritus, the creations like trees, plants, animals, and behavioral pattern of many of them except human beings, they are all maintained in the same manner without any interruption and interception. Okay. Is there any difference? No. Only because the nature has been different. Why? Because the rains or the climatical conditions. It is not Prakriti what I am talking about. That Prakriti is different. Ritus, yes, have become imbalanced. Why? There is like what we call as ozone layer and the glaciers melting. heat is increasing or the cold is increasing or the changes in this. They are all the reasons of the physical manifestation. But the basic nature of the Prakriti is not changeable. Even today the combination of the water is hydrogen H2O. There is no change in that. When that changes, then you can say the Prakriti Niyama has changed. Till so long that all those things are being maintained, the Prakriti Niyama has not been changed. The other manifestation, what you are seeing as the Ritus are changing or the climatical conditions are changing or the rains are reduced and more, drought, this, that and all, is all because of the manifestations. The involvement, that's what I'm trying to talk to you now, or the attachment. We have vague ideas of involvements and attachments. Many people wonder, how can one involve? There were so many questions and so many queries. So many famous people were questioning on the subject of Vedic science or Shastras of the involvement, because there is a sentence somewhere in many places that you, even Bhagavad Gita says, execute your karmas without involvement or without getting attached to that. How to do a karma without attachment? That means attachment is involvement, or attachment is an after effect of involvement. First involvement takes place, then the attachment takes place. So without involving, if you do something, then the attachment will not be there. Once the involvement is there, there may be attachment or no attachment. Depends again. Once that attachment is there, then it is difficult to follow the disciplinary path. We will be guided by the attachments, because attachments are created, even involvement is created, or attachment is created is based on the ego, ahankara. So said that they said the progression of concentration and disassociation, that's called detachment or not having attachment. Progression of concentration and disassociation from the gross ego. It comes from the gross ego. In that, when that falls away, what happens? The psychic centers and the elements dominate the consciousness. Till then, when an involvement is done and an association is done and an attachment is done, ego is dominating the consciousness. When ego is dominating the consciousness will be hidden and only ego functions. Because consciousness and ego doesn't go together. It cannot have a layam. It cannot merge. Yes. So in the process of the progression, what we call as a progression, today what we call it as a progression. The progression is based on the emotions. Progression is caused on the association, not disassociation. Non-concentration, non-concentration. We do not concentrate on anything. We do not disassociate from anything. Is how the psychic centers, when it starts dominating the consciousness functions as the psychic centers and make your system balanced. Is the tattva, the principle of it. In practical, the physical body. Today in Kali Yuga, it's practically, in many places it is become impossible because as I told you, because of the discrimination of Sancheta the prarabdha karma and the sancheta karma or agami karma could not be identified. So there is a confusion in that itself. Because of the education system, because of the system that has been functioning from the beginning. From the beginning itself, if we start doing certain practices, that's why these things are coming back gradually. Maybe it may take over a group of people, because the whole universe, most 90% is into materialistic developments and materialistic thoughts. The one who are in materialistic development and materialistic thoughts cannot understand the disassociation and concentration. They cannot understand the meaning of not getting involved while in the world. Not getting into world, living, being in life. What is involvement? Not getting into the practice of living when you got a life. Now the living is what? The living according to the discipline that is meant for is called living, not the living what we call as living today. That's the difference. So the meaning of living itself is misunderstood as the way I am living, eating, sleeping and drinking is the living. In short, we call always this the term used. Sleeping, eating, sleeping and drinking. This is the term used. That means the activities that you are physically executing is called as living by you. Whereas living is totally different. Living is totally different. Is why today we do not know the meaning of life. What is the meaning of life? Somebody is asking. Why should it be? Somebody who is undergoing. Why there are sorrows and happiness? They said. Again, it is because of happiness is also ignorance. Sorrows are also ignorance. Happiness comes to you when your materialistic thoughts get fulfilled. When the materialist thoughts doesn't get fulfilled, you get sorrow. So the sorrow and sadness is because of the ignorance. You think you have achieved something is why you are happy. You think. Have you really achieved? If you have really achieved, you should not require it anymore, that particular thing. But we repeatedly ask for it. Now involving. What is the necessity of understanding the true meaning of this involvement and functioning and living? Then only Dhyanam can be done. Otherwise, what Dhyanam you will do? The person who doesn't know the distinction between the sancheta karma and the prarabdha karma, how can he do Dhyanam? How can he do meditation? How can he progress in the spiritual science? How can he develop his own spirits? Unless his egoistic activities do not fall and the psychic centers and the elements do not dominate the consciousness, how can you attain the liberation from the egoistic activities or indisciplined egoistic activities? I can qualify that, even though egoism is indiscipline only, but just no. So now what happens if unless that egoistic activities do not drop down, we will not be in a position to activate the psychic centers. It's what I am trying to tell you. When the egoistic activities are prevalent and present in the psychic centers, how can the psychic centers dominate the consciousness? Because consciousness cannot be activated because of the external pressures on the psychic centers by the egoistic activities. Then you may ask a question. How can a psychic center which is already prevalent and very powerful can be influenced by the egoistic centers or egoistic activities? No. It should be more powerful, is it not? That's right. It is very powerful. It's highly powerful, no doubt. Which is powerful? The light or mud? Prakash, which can reach anywhere, anytime, within fraction of second. Which is powerful? Is it that or the dormant, dense mud, which is powerful? No doubt the light is powerful. It's what you saying. Do you know that most powerful light can be hidden by a thin layer of mud, which is dormant and which is dense, which has got no activities on that, just falling on that. The most powerful light, which is giving prakasha to the whole universe, can be hidden by a thin layer of half an inch of mud, which has got no self-activity. Absolutely no. You understand now how the ego covers the prakasha? Because the purity can be covered by impurity easily. Any small impurity is put on the purity gets distorted. But to evacuate an impurity, the amount of purity that is required is very high. Each and every molecule of impurity has to be replaced by the... Is it not? Similarly, the psychic centers are most powerful, which cannot be destroyed, which cannot be deactivated, which cannot be influenced for less powers. Its power is same. 50 watts is 50 watts. It cannot be 45. 200 kilowatts is 200 kilowatts. It cannot be 150. No. Same way, the psychic centers, the power of psychic centers are same, which is covered by the egoic centers. When the ego application comes, what happens? These are covered. And another thing you have to understand, the psychic centers are not the ultimate powerful phenomena